That's better.
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, I think that after our Proud and Prejudiced documentary, basically for 3 years, we've been slandered as being racist, Nazi by the media. After our Proud and Prejudiced documentary, it came out of it quite clear. Certain things. The only thing I wanted to get out of that documentary was that we are against the ideology of 7th century Islam, and that we're not against blacks, Sikhs, Asians, and any other, nothing to do with colour, it's all to do with ideology. And that came out of it, and after that, in the weeks after that, I had so many West Indian people in Luton coming up to me, and they were infuriated that they've been lied to by the media. They said, how can the media have got away with telling us that you're Nazis? They didn't understand it. I've had so many people come up to me, and that's the main gripe on a lot of their things. And so when it says public perception, it is changing. People 3 years on, we're established now. People know what we stand for. They no longer say the racist English Defence League. They say the anti-Islamist English Defence League. So, and it's been a hard, long battle to fight and break those barriers, which there's been a smear campaign by politicians, by Islamic leaders, and by the left to try and silence us, really, to try and stop the growth, to silence the debate by just labelling us all as racists and Nazis. But yeah, and obviously now with linking up with the British Freedom, the idea is that the English Defence League does clearly have a bit of an image problem. It's an image problem that's been created by not just the left's, partly our own fault, but a lot of people ask me to condemn it when people are angry on the streets. But I'll try and explain that those lads that are angry, you see these grooming cases and things like that. I've been to cities where I've had lads come up to me and say, my sister's one of the victims of these Muslim paedophiles. Now, the system's let them down, the police have let them down, the Islamic community have let them down. And when that man's angry on the street and he's got an aggressive face or he's shouting, I can't condemn him. Although what I'll try and do is channel his frustration and anger. But obviously you do see anger on the streets because people are angry. There's an undercurrent of anger that I don't think anyone's got their finger on the pulse, and it's massive. But like, I think, especially with recent developments with this Islamic child grooming and the fact that there's been a conspiracy of silence to facilitate it by the police force and by social services, people are really angry. Blood is boiling, and we're trying to direct that anger through peaceful protest. So we've had our own image problem, but hopefully the British Freedom now will be like a clean slate as such, that will be the organisation, because so many people are sympathetic. I have so many people come up to us in the street saying, I support you, but I'm too fearful to come to a demonstration because of losing my job, because they look a bit rowdy, they look a bit aggressive, things like that. So those sort of people, which is a massive percentage, will now be able to support us by ticking a box for the British Freedom Party, hopefully. Oh, they do. Oh, they do. That's when we know. Every single police force tell us. When we have sit-down meetings with the police, they all say, look, we're not allowed an opinion, but they stick their thumbs up. Pretty much all of them do that. All of them do that. Because obviously they see firsthand the extremism, the Islamists, the Muslim gangs. They see it firsthand. They have to deal with that as a job, the police. Also, what they do is, we had a black Tory councillor, Dr. Blaine. He come up to me in a meeting on camera, shook my hand, said he admires what I'm doing. He thinks it's amazing what I'm doing, the way we're galvanising the working class. He thinks we've got skills that need to be capitalised on by local government. He doesn't understand why the government are not sitting down and talking with us. And then he was suspended. So then there's this big campaign. Whenever anyone talks out on behalf of us, we've just had it again and he was a local Tory councillor. And he was a black man. He was actually a black man. And they called him racist afterwards. And we just had last week another Tory councillor down in Bournemouth. She made comments on Twitter saying that the English Defence League, the only group sticking up for the English. Now she's been suspended. So this is what happens. There's a big, which is what they've done across this country. They scare everybody. Because all other politicians watching that think, well, I better not say anything counterproductive about the English Defence League, because I'll be suspended. I'll be harassed by the left. I'll be called a racist. I'll be called far right. I'll be called an extremist. So that's the problem we have. And that's what they do, and they do it on purpose, so that people are fearful, and it's exactly that reason that we form, because people have been walking on eggshells for 15, 20 years, scared to talk about how they feel, and it's because of these reasons they're harassed. Anyone who's in English Defence League is harassed. They try and find out where they work, they report them to their job, they smear campaign them to try and destroy your life, which is a organised and orchestrated campaign by the left against anyone who speaks out. No, they've been infiltrated to the top. The first thing that brought it to my awareness really was really locally, even in Luton. They opened a Discover Islam Centre. So, and then we looked into this Discover Islam Centre, and the group that are doing it, they'd previously, the Daily Telegraph had done a big article on them. They'd previously, as soon as Luther Rahman, which was is a known extremist, a known Islamist linked, he was kicked out of the Labour Party for having Islamist links. As soon as he got into power in Tower Hamlets Council, the first thing he done was to put all these leaflets and these CDs for this dawah, to conversion to Islam for this group. And this group are funded by extremism, they're Islamists, and that was the first thing that happened. So once Tower Hamlets Council was infiltrated, they started pushing Islam and pushing extremist Islam through the council. Now Luton opened this centre, and to our shock and dismay, when we started looking into the group behind this centre, that all of our councillors, our mayor, all of our cohesion groups went to the grand opening of it. Now, when we've done some digging and we've highlighted who was behind it, some of the things they've said in videos on the internet, their anti-Christian rhetoric, it's just there can be no other reason why our council is supporting these groups other than they've been infiltrated to the top. Because in this Daily Telegraph investigation into this group, it says that the only purpose for this group coming to your town is to cause disharmony and foster hatred. Now, how are our council supporting this group? And it's clear. It was then clear to me that the Labour, and then when we started looking at the people in positions of power, like the head of Luton in Harmony, which is like a cohesion project, is a Socialist Workers' Party. So then we see the far left of infiltrating as well as Islam, for their own personal agendas. And it's alarming. And you've seen the police force said they had they've kicked out 3 or 4 police officers last week because they believe they've been to terrorist training camps. If you look at the CPS, like what we're saying now is, with the child grooming gangs, the first instances come about in 2008, and a solicitor for the CPS decided not to prosecute. Now, we've just done a Freedom of Information Act, but I guarantee you, I'm pretty sure, I'll put my life on it, that the man is a Muslim. And it seems that they have infiltrated everything. If you look at they've got themselves into positions of power across the board. All the major decision makings, all the major organisations, that's where they aim for, so that they can have a sway and they can slowly get in their positions of power and Islamify areas for changing for Sharia. And that's what, I believe they've infiltrated to the top of this country. It's been infiltrated. And I always thought they'd start a Islamic National Party or an Islamic political party, but they don't need to, because they just infiltrated Labour. That's all they've done. They just basically took over the Labour Party. That's what we've seen. So, yeah, they're infiltrating everywhere. I will do, yeah, I will do. I don't know, that's what I need to look into, because I just rang the police earlier, because just today, I've had threats to chop up my children, I've had threats to burn my mum, this is just today, and I've got them all in black and white where they're messaging me online. I've had threats to shoot me, every single day I get this. Now, if I went online and I made a threat to chop up a Muslim's mum, I'll be arrested. So the police need to be arresting these people on a daily basis that are making these threats. But they don't seem to. There seems to be a lack of support, should I say, and real determination to deal with these problems. I hope so. I hope if I can get elected in anywhere, then I will get some protection from the authorities. But at present, it don't look that way. So we're on it alone. I keep on hoping, because I said, to be honest, it's getting to a point now where I was in town yesterday doing an interview for Croatia TV, and I was lucky to get out. So they got some great footage, because I was surrounded by at least 20 or 30 Muslims, and it was all getting heated, 3 police cars come, and I've just said, I'm standing there saying, this is freedom of speech, and the police were telling me to go away. I said, I'm not going away. I'm finishing my interview with this TV company in my town. And I don't care if they want to threaten to beat me up or beat me up. You have to deal with them. That's your job. It's my right to stand here and talk, which is what I'm doing. You can't tell me to stop talking. And then they say, well, they were going to arrest me for a breach of the peace. I said, this is where the problem is. Rather than turning up and dealing with the aggressors, you're picking on me, who's just merely standing here exercising my freedom of speech. And yeah, so hopefully, I've been thinking for 3 years. I thought by now someone would have come in, a sympathetic donor who sees the work we're doing. We're all volunteers, and I thought we might have got some funding from somewhere, even just funding for security, because to be honest, I do need security. I still do what I do, but I can see something bad happening in the future. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm in Luton every day. I walk around Luton every day. Every time I do an interview, I'm usually on my own. and I'm in the town centre, and there's always things. I think I nearly have about three or four punch-ups every single day, probably, when I walk through town. So I think it's just a matter of time. So hopefully, if I can get in, I'll get some security. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you see, like when these stickers went up saying gay-free zone and alcohol-free zone and all these things, there was a lot of people shocked by it. Yeah, but people like living in towns where we live, the stickers didn't shock us because those stickers just confirm what's been happening anyway. You see every week in the paper a non-Muslim walking near a Muslim area is attacked and beaten. They call it a failed robbery, yeah, but they don't try and rob them. The reason why they're getting beat up is because they're drunk and they're walking within an Islamic area. And that's Sharia law. We used to wonder and scratch our heads, why are they jumping out of cars on innocent people and beating them up all the time? And if you look, it's usually homosexuals, it's usually someone who's intoxicated near their mosques or near their area, and that's Sharia policing. That's been here for years. They've been policed in their own communities for years, and we always just scratch our heads thinking that it's just random racist attacks or random religious attacks, but it's not. It's enforcing Sharia. Every single homophobic attacks are go up by hundreds of percent where Islamic areas is. The pubs close down, they gradually wear down the pub, they attack the people, and that's everyday life now. So when they put these stickers up and a lot of people were alarmed by it, it's just confirming what we know living near Islamic ghettos anyway. It is what's becoming more worrying and alarming is Salafis and Wahhabis. They're growing big time. They are growing big time. And all the people who convert to Islam, you see, like all the non-Muslims that are converting, the West Indians, the whites, none of them are converting to Sufism. None of them are converting to any sort of moderate sects of Islam. It's all Salafis. It's all Wahhabis. It's the drive to convert and the drive to Islamify and really push Islam on us is coming from the Saudi-funded sects. And it is alarming because now all the Muslims I'm seeing now that are walking around town that are 18, 19 are the big bearded and bald-headed mullahs. They're all there. That's the way they're all going. They're all going praying 5 times a day. They're all stopped listening to music. They're all going back to 7th century. And it's happening at an alarming rate. I know. Because they're petrified. And fear is paralysing, isn't it? And I think the fear factor has paralysed our politicians, has paralysed our police force. And I think the way they look at it is they're trying to put the cat back in the box. And everyone's now starting to say how they feel. 3 years ago, no one would talk about Islam. Everyone was too scared. No one would mention Sharia. No one would mention the barbaric, the anti-democratic, anti-Semitic, homophobic ideology. No one would talk about it. Now, within 3 years, because of the English Defence League, people are proudly standing up, shouting it, singing it, and screaming it. And people are talking about how they feel, and they're trying to put it back in the box. So, by giving people jail sentences, it scares everyone else. So I think I don't know, I'll try and work out what the way they try and look at it. And I think they're looking at it as though we've got 3% that are Muslim, we're trying to contain them, because if the 97% really kick off and decide that they've had enough, we're going to have big problems. So I think they're trying to scare and fear factor into people. So because say that when the English Defence League first started, every leader I talk to from different towns and cities, they've all had their doors kicked off, they've all been arrested, and they do that purposely to scare all the other people. So all my friends were scared when this first started, and they started kicking my door off, putting pictures of me in the paper, arresting me, just harassing me, forcing me to lose my businesses. When they do that to me, all the people around me sit and watch, and they all think, I've got a job, I've got a family to protect, I don't want that. So then it scares them from joining the movement, it scares them from speaking about how they feel. And that's a tactic that I think they purposely use. And in fact, I know they do, because every single leader from every single town and division in the English Defence League has been arrested, raided and persecuted. And it's done in order to terrify other people. So when people speak up and say how they feel, they're then arrested. And they do that to stop other people. So when people you see, I saw some lads, yeah, they got 4 years for smashing a mosque window with a brick. Now, any house of worship should never be attacked. That's not the method to go down. But they smashed a window with a brick. That's it. They got 4 years. That's all that, because it's religiously motivated. Now that is to put the fear factor into anybody from ever going near mosques. Whereas someone can smash a church, someone can beat up a priest. They don't get 4 years. Muslims attack anything. A Muslim desecrated a war grave, a war memorial with Bin Laden's on his way. British will die. He didn't go to jail. He actually got let off. But yet a non-Muslim smashes one window and gets 4 years. So there's a two-tier policing system where our community are treated with iron fists and their community are treated with kid gloves. And we need to break that. That's one of the first things we need to break is the two-tier policing system. We need them to be as worried of our community as they are of theirs. Yeah. Well, when they say Holocaust, I'm a proud supporter of Israel. Do you know what I mean? And I'll defend Israel to the last day. And I think it's a shining beacon in the middle of surrounded by totalitarian Arab dictatorships. It's a shining beacon of democracy. And when these hope not hate, these groups, they're all funded. They're all saying what they say because they get paid to say it. That's it. You take away their funding, would they still be here doing it? Would they still be volunteering to print stories, etc.? No, they wouldn't. So I mean, we're all volunteers. We do this as a passion. That's why they don't know how to deal with us. Because we're doing this, we're dedicating our lives to it, and we're not getting paid a penny. Whereas all these groups that come out against us, all these experts who give their opinion, they're all getting paid to give their opinions. So their opinions they're just saying what their paycheck tells them to say. So all they are is far left groups who are appeasers to communism, to Marxism. They get anti-establishment, anti-British police. Whereas we're pro-police, we're pro-law, we're pro-democracy. But yet, for some reason, the authorities wish to treat us as the bad guys. I can't get my head around it sometimes, but it's just ludicrous. Yeah, what they need to know is that it's like we're sleepwalking into an oblivion. Yeah, I don't think they will realise how quickly, at the click of your fingers, your country will be the same. Because it will happen. It's just like it just so gradually happens, and it's so quick. It's so. I mean, like you just turn around and oh my God, like certain estates in Luton. It's like within 5 years, it's like oh my God, the whole estate, all the schools are now Muslim. What's happened? And it's just like overnight. And that's because of the birth rate, and it's so terrifyingly quick, the way it can just, within one generation, it can change a whole town. Within one generation. And if people don't stand up now, before it happens, I wish what we're doing now, I'd have been around 20 years ago to do in Luton now, to stop the town descending the way it has, to stop the Saudi-funded Wahhabi Islamist sects getting such a grip of the town that they have, to stop them controlling the streets the way they do. And if you wish to control an area, the first thing you have to do is control the streets. So you have like a street form jihad, where they put their muscle on the streets, they attack people, so they control the areas. And that's what we're seeing. And I think people really need to, we should always look and learn from history. I can't believe Britain has not learned from Lebanon. I can't believe Britain has not looked around the world and learning now from Nigeria, from Sudan. I can't believe we haven't learned in 1400 years of history of Islam. I can't believe we haven't looked to history. Because that's all we need to do is look to history to see what's going to happen in Britain. Now, Canada and America, countries like in North America, they should be looking now and thinking, we don't want that. Look what's happening now in Britain. And it's going to happen. It's not if it happens, it's just when it happens. It's coming to a town near you, coming to a country near you, unless you stand up, be brave, put your life to it and dedicate it. And let's stop it.